Okay, and it looks like we are recording.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. And for our guests in the room, please use the sign-in sheet if you'd like to make a public comment during our public comment section. And Alexis, will you please do the roll call?
Yes. Bill Gropp.
Here.
Jim Knight.
Here.
Sarah Lucas. Present. Steve Nagy.
Present.
Brian Frank.
Here.
Jeff Pritchard.
Present.
And Catherine Stevens.
Present.
That would conclude our roll call.
All right, thank you. So that brings us to public comment. Do we have people who are in the queue?
Let me see. I'm not currently seeing anybody online, but they can take a moment to raise their hand there and I'll grab the sheet. So it looks like we do have one in person, and that will be Charlie. If you could please state your name for the record and any affiliation.
Okay. I'm Charlie Landis.
Sorry, I just
You
want
said something.
to. No, you're great. I just want to bring this forward for you.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Charlie Landis. Thank you for the time. No, I just wanted to be here concerned about the PAPPYs at Independence Airport. I was here a year ago and folks got them working. It didn't last long. They're old. They're probably quarrelsome for probably a decade, and it needs some resolve. There's a lot of airplanes there, and it'd be quite a benefit. And that's really all I had. But thanks so much for getting them going last year or one of them for a short period of time. But that's all I've got.
Thank you. And Alexis, do you have anybody on?
I do, but for a quick second here, I just want to take a quick moment. I do want to acknowledge some of the written public comment that we did receive. We received written public comment from Robin Holdman, and Wendy Kellington, and those were from the previous board meeting that we have brought over to this meeting. And then we've also received comments from Bjorn Dahlin and Shelley Humble. So those are written. And then it does look like I have someone who has their hand raised, and then looks like it is Robin. So give me one moment, Robin, while I give you access. Okay, Robin, you should have access to your microphone. Are you able to unmute, Robin? Oh, no.
Looks like
I
she's.
think this is the.
Hi.
Oh, there we
Hello?
go.
Hooray! Finally, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I apologize. I'm proficient at Zoom, but not this. So yes, I did submit comments. First off, Robin Holdman, Friends of Pacific City State Airport. We're based out of Pacific City, Oregon. And I did submit comments since I wasn't able to figure out my mic last time. And first off, I wanted to thank and compliment the state airport staff for proceeding with applying for a land use permit to make necessary repairs and maintenance at Pacific City State Airport because of chronic flooding in the winter during the king tides. In fact, if you don't have anything to do this weekend, the king tide starts today and will be running through the next 3 days. And it would be great for you to drive over there and see what it looks like when flooding occurs on this state airport. So what I think I'd like to really express, though, is that in 2020, the advisory board, the state airport manager at that time, and the director for the agency approved $430,000 worth of work on the airport. And it's been 5 years and we're still waiting to get that money released. It has been released in part for some projects, but we just ask that your agency and board honor the commitments you make and follow them in order. We were in round 3, and now you've gone through round 5, and you're coming back to round 3. And so it creates doubt in the priorities of the agency and the word that you give to us when you say you're going to support us, and then we have to wait for years for action. So closing up, we do appreciate the recent land use permit and hope that we can finally move forward and make the necessary repairs to this very popular and important state airport. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then it does look like we have Shelley Humble, who has signed up for public comment.
We maybe have our switched positions so we can get her on a microphone.
Yeah, so there is a mic right
Here,
here. If you'd like to stand right here, that would be great.
Like this chair.
That's all right. So, Shelley Humble, Airport Manager for the City of Cresswell. I'm also on the Lane Act as the Aviation Other Stakeholder, and I am the Chair of the ARC for ODEV. So you received public comment from a friend. I say that very facetiously. This is my file on him. 3 years worth. And I'm not going to comment a lot. There are litigation happening with this individual and his partner with the City of Cresswell. He agency shops. He has turned us into the FAA to no fruition. In fact, they won't speak to him anymore because he does not have any vested interest in the airport. He's turned us into the fire marshal. We've been given a clean bill of health. Every agency he can come to, he has. He turned me in, sorry, I'm out of breath, running from the parking lot. He turned me into the ethics last year. Had nothing to do with COAR. It had to do with Connect Oregon and the runway project. It had to do with a tie-down policy that I was instructed by my supervisor to help the airport commission create, and the land leases, which I had nothing to do with. We went through the process. My attorney cost me a little over, I think it was either $11,642 or $11,462, just to get to a point where I said, I can't afford to keep going. There's nothing there. So I took a letter of education to stop the bleeding. Since then, this latest one, which I was notified on November 5th, after the Lane Act Board met and chose me again as their designee, which was in October, I believe. He sent another complaint to the ethics. The sad part is right now, the ethics has to investigate every complaint. That's where they're at. So right now it's supposed to be an executive session. No one is supposed to know about it. But of course, it's not good enough for him. So he sent it to the State Aviation Board. So I felt it important to send my response to you guys so that you can see the truth. He has a real hard time with stating facts. He likes to do fiction. He likes to muddy the waters. He likes to twist things. So I believe once they go through their meeting, which it hasn't been established yet, that they will close the case without further investigation. Right now, we're just in a holding pattern. I don't know when the date is. They haven't said. It's just really sad with the way the ethics commission works is anybody can complain. They don't have to prove fact. They don't have to give any data. They can just say whatever they want. And then it puts you into this whirlwind of trying to defend yourself. So just so that you're aware, he has been a nemesis, not just for me, several other airports. He has lots of time on his hands and he's very articulate. He uses big words, which even I have to look up some of those words. So he makes it sound like you're a real evil person, and I'm not. I have never spoke to the Cresswell grants. I have never done anything unethical. I do what's best for the airport and for aviation. I've been in aviation since 1983. My husband has a business that has never been hidden. He's been at the airport since 1997. I was airport manager from 2001. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Any
Okay.
other public comments?
I don't see any hands raised. I'll give it maybe just another minute or so for people to raise their hand if they'd like to make public comment. And seeing none, and we don't have any in person, so that would conclude the public comment section.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to a presentation that we have today from the Oregon Pilots Association and Becky Breckenridge joining us.
Good morning. I appreciate your gracious invitation to make a presentation and to introduce you to the newly reinvigorated Oregon Pilots Association. I'll start at the beginning. In 1939, we started out as Sportsman Pilots of Oregon, and which was right before AOPA was actually developed. Go ahead. And it was the original articles that OPA was founded on are pretty close to what our roots are still with us today in how we set our objectives. And it's to foster the interests of aviation. Go ahead. Promote honesty and goodwill among fellow pilots to assist fellow members to greater achievements in their respective vocations. And just to recognize that our membership are users of the state airports, and we feel like we have a lot to offer because of that. Go ahead. And to cooperate with organizations in advancing the interests of aviation in Oregon, partnering, advocating, and embracing emerging technologies is part of our foundation also. Go ahead. Promote, didn't know his notes were on there, sorry.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so in March 1960, name change to Oregon Pilots Association, and as late as 2025 June, a whole new board of directors was elected, and we are working on restoring as much mutual benefit to our membership, strengthening the advocacy, and we've created the Oregon Air Safety and Education Foundation, which is educational and it provides aviation scholarships. And we're just trying to reestablish the vitality of OPA and the revival of our chapters. Go ahead. This is the list of our board members, and as we're moving forward, go ahead. We are presently focusing on advocating for aviation, especially general aviation, because that's mainly our membership base. And those are the points that we are focusing on for that. Go ahead. And also we are updating ourselves in modernizing our website, our membership structure, and define benefits and more, which is basically we're giving it the whole facelift. The whole foundation is just a total facelift at this point. And we're still in the foundational process. Go ahead. Yeah, so then we decided to expand our board to 3 different sections: director membership, OPA chapters, and directors at large. Go ahead. So we, because we're based on membership, we felt it important to expand, which we already saw. And these are our chapters at our local, at your state airports and local airports, private airports. And they're basically clubs, social clubs to begin with, but they are also there to protect their airports. They're not technically theirs, but you understand. It just builds camaraderie and community involvement and education. And it's just the grassroots of community building among aviators. It can become like Friends of Pacific City. If there needs to be a channel or a base for the state to communicate with those communities at the airports. Go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, social flying, just camaraderie. Go ahead. So we see some opportunities between us and Oregon Department of Aviation. And in the past, members of the State Aviation Board and ODAV have recognized us as a voice. And we just want to explain that we are willing to continue that relationship. And I think we can be supportive to you. You can be supportive to us. And we want to do that in engaging manners. Your strategic plan that was recently drawn up, we feel like we could contribute insight, possibly with our perspective in general aviation. So, and then also we are excited because we've already started conversations with Kenji on a regular basis, and we just want the communication to be open between our association and ODAP. Yeah, go ahead. Other opportunities are working together jointly, increase, we could add insight into the programs for funding. Our chapters and members can be virtual extension of ODAP because they are the eyes and the ears on the ground, and they are users of the system also. Go ahead. So in conclusion, these are just points that I've been making already. But we just want to offer our partnership, our collaboration, and our just an open door policy on communicating so that we're not showing up at the table after a conflict arises, but we want to be part of the conversation before conflict arises. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation. Kenji?
So Chair Stevens, Becky, thank you
Yes.
so much. It was so much fun just hanging out with you and Steven. So we just had great conversations, and
Yeah.
basically the 3 of us are nerds. So we were talking about a lot of things and how to create a deeper relationship between OPA and ODAV as well. So we were off to a great start, and we plan on meeting regularly, which is a regular cadence, so we can just discuss ideas and really start to address issues again, like Becky said, early and often. Before it gets to a crisis point. So it's part of that whole communication outreach that we've been doing. So I want to thank you, Becky. Thanks for coming out and just making a presentation. It was great. And I think it's very important. So thank you.
And OPA invited me to speak at was it the summer conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a really great attendance.
Yeah.
And a lively group, and they had really good questions and comments for me. So I appreciated that.
We appreciate you being there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will move on then to the director's update with Kenji.
It's me. Yay. Okay. Will you be able to? I don't know. We're gonna keep it kind of short.
Okay, yeah, I can go ahead.
Okay.
So you want the first slide?
Yeah, first slide, please. So this is from the McMinnville Air Show, which was absolutely fantastic. I got to take my kids this fall, and it was great. They got to go up into a helicopter, and they got to see all the planes going by really loudly. So it was a fantastic opportunity to visit that air show. So if you haven't been there next year, please go. Along with the Hillsborough Air Show, right, Steve? And there's a number of good air shows throughout the state. So I will definitely be visiting more of the air shows this upcoming year. Next slide, please. The strategic plan, we passed it, right? So we got to take concrete action on the strategic plan, right? So for Objective 1.1, which is one of our most important ones, collaborating with the public and aviation community to build consensus for new funding sources. Well, we got a commitment from Chair McLean to say, hey, I'm going to get involved.
Right.
Yeah. So there would be legislative commitment to get involved. And she said, hey, let's start in March of 2026. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be gathering a lot of the folks, including OPA, to talk about this, and also OAMA, of course. So a lot of stakeholder input to really come up with good ideas, because the more people we have around the table, the better ideas that we can come up with. So just wanted to put that out there. Next slide, please. And then on, well, sort of planning, Objective 5.2, by July 2026, launch 2 to 3 year pilot project to stand up an ODOT drone program to support state enterprise drone operations, et cetera. We've already started to put together a small working group with state parks, Department of Transportation, state police, and Department of Forestry to come out with best practices for state agencies and also for public safety throughout the state. Because a lot of them don't know what they're doing, to be honest, right? They're like, oh, we got our 107, we can do whatever we want. No, it doesn't go that way. There's reporting requirements to ODAF. For example, you got to report your flights or a general idea. You also have to register your drone. There's a lot of folks out there on the public sector side that don't know that. So that could increase revenue to the agency as well, which is always thinking about that. But it's also from a safety point of view, right? So if we can start pushing out best practices, where not to fly, how to fly, because right now there's no requirement that people actually have flying experience before they go out and do missions for some of the agencies and some of the public safety folks. So we just want to make sure that there's some actual work being done to with procedures, maintenance, etc. So we're working on that at the moment. All right. Next slide, please, Alexis. Thank you. So if you didn't know, there's an eVTOL integration pilot program. There's going to be applications going in a couple days. We don't have the bandwidth to be a primary on any application. So we said, we'll sign up with somebody else taking the lead. So we signed up for Utah's application. So it's in that one, it's Oregon, Idaho, Arizona, and Oklahoma. And then we're also signed up as a co-applicant with Pennsylvania. And that includes the states of Washington, Virginia, California, Ohio, Alaska, Georgia, Maine, Massachusetts, Utah, Oklahoma, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Illinois, Texas, New Mexico. It sounds like the state song. Remember those? But the main idea behind the eVTOL integration pilot program is to really work with industry to look at concepts of operations and start working through some of the issues, do demonstration flights, and then see how they go, do a lot of planning. Ours includes Pendleton, and then we're looking at concepts of operations for wildfire, as well as cargo delivery, as well as people delivery. So think about how eventually boutique airlines or another small airline could use electric vehicles to do, for example, between Pendleton and Portland and such. So just working through some of those concepts of operations. So next slide, please. And then I got to visit the Drones of the First Responder programs in both Eugene and Gresham, which, by the way, Gresham also houses Portland Police's DFR program. And it's amazing. You get a 911 call, click, drone goes up, out there. And it's a matter of 30 seconds to a minute. So it gets the scene faster than any officer can get there. And what's nice about that is they can see if an officer is even required. Eugene has some fantastic statistics in terms of they were able to clear probably around 50% of their calls without having to send out an officer out, which means that the officers that are out there can better use their time, respond to calls where they're actually needed. So it's great to see. And also Gresham, it was fascinating talking to the folks there that the responding officers at first, when they first started it, they're like, drones, what are you talking about? We don't need this. But now, after they've had it for quite a long time, they're like, when's the drone coming out? So it shows that it's become an integral tool in their response. So what I just talked about has taken a lot of time, especially the EIPT, and starting to work on the strategic plan. So that's what I've been up to since the last board meeting. But I'll yield the rest of my time because the staff has been so much more busy and they gotta have a lot of more fun reports. So any questions?
I'll just say that APD program with their drones, like they're finding suspects really quickly.
Yep.
They use some special tools I probably shouldn't talk about, but yeah, it's really kind of been a game changer for that agency.
Oh yeah, and where they're operating it out of, have you been there yet?
No,
Oh,
get to see the super secret stuff.
oh, I'll get you on a tour.
Okay,
Yes,
that'd be great.
I'll make that introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, comments?
Just say last night, I could not turn off this program. It's called Fugitives at Large or Fugitives on the Run. And phones
Yes.
were critical
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
in resolving finding the bad guys. So good work.
Yeah.
It's great to see this come about.
Yeah, and it's not only law enforcement too, but it's also search and rescue, especially like in the Hood River area. There's a lot of folks who get lost up in the wilderness areas, and using drones to find these fallen hikers it's critical tool these days.
Yeah, and our fire department also, I think a lot of fire departments use it to plan their attack on a fire because they can go and see where the origin is and where they really need to be paying attention to the fire first.
Oh, I mean, Jeff uses them too all the time.
I don't recommend watching that program because it's really hard to stop.
All right, well, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, it looks like
Oh.
Jeff does have his.
Oh, yes, he does.
Oh, I thought he was giving his thumbs up.
I did do the thumbs up. Just one little anecdote. One of the changes that we need to look at in the future with regards to ORS, specific to UAS, is a little bit more flexibility for UAS to be utilized in the capacity that you guys were just talking about. There are some challenges and limitations, and we may be ready for another opportunity to look at that. That's all.
100%.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. We will move right along then to a communications update with Alexis.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. It's Alexis. One way to start the presentation. So I just wanted to give a really quick rundown of some of the communications updates that we have going on. So I can have this change. Okay. So information. So with our monthly newsletter, we are on our 5th newsletter as of November 20th. Hip hip hooray.
Yay.
We have sent that out on an average to about 2,500 subscribers with a 26.6% average open rate, which is really great open rate for a newsletter from us. So that's awesome. We love to see that. The newsletter, this is kind of where we're trying to make, a quick view of everything that's been happening in the agency over the last month. So these will be press releases that have been sent out during the month, important announcements and informations from the department, updates on ongoing and completed construction. These link to our other Gov deliveries for more information as well, so you can always find more information. We also highlight a COAR grant project that was recently completed, or we house other information around our COAR program as well. And then we also like to highlight the ongoing maintenance that we have going on at all of our state airports, such as painting, obstruction removal, deferred maintenance, all of those things. We really want to highlight some of the work that's being done at our state-owned airports. So our next newsletter is going to be released the week of December 22nd. And that will be our end of the year newsletter. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can do so through our front page on our website. And you can click on the subscribe to ODAV emails and select the community events and outreach when you sign up for it. This also takes you to all of the signups for airports and any other information that we send out through our Gov delivery system. All right.
And one thing on how effective it has been, a legislator actually contacted us because of something that we sent out. And it's actually Rep. Nathanson, who's awesome.
Great.
And wants to schedule an hour to talk about the topic that was included in the newsletter. So it's very effective, and hopefully folks here around the table are opening and reading the newsletter because it's chock full of good information.
Okay, so we've also been busy in other aspects as well. So we have sent out 7 press releases this year, starting in I believe it was May, starting in May. So these included announcements about our new hire, the completion of the Salem Bay runway and electrical rehab project with state and federal acknowledgements, ODAT's comments on the FAA's proposed Part 108 rule, the completion and ribbon cutting for Cape Blanco State Airport runway and electrical improvement project. We also did a press release for signed MOUs with Sci-Fi and Yamaha for wildfire mitigation and the launch of our newly designed website. So that is all of the press releases we've sent out so far. And on the right-hand side there is ODAV in the news, which is really great. So these press releases go out to state legislatures, local news and media. Our LinkedIn page also has all of our press releases, our monthly newsletter, and it's also available on our website. So with the website in mind, I did want to take a quick moment to actually do a run through on how to get this information on our website with some customer service feedback that we've seen. It seems like they don't know where some of this information is. And I really want to kind of show where we can go to find this information. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pull up the website. Okay, so this is our front homepage of the website. You'll find here there are like little drop downs that will take you to further information. But what's really great is if you scroll down, we have our skylines and headlines. So this is any more recent information that has gone out. So Gov deliveries, important information we want the public to know right away. And so this is our 2 highlights for the 2 things that have just recently gone out. So we sent out our November newsletter with like a brief, I'm gonna close okay. And then it will also link you to the newsletter. Here, things want to go away on me. There we go. And so here we'll find more information. You can click on the learn more, which will take you to our Be Informed page. So that if you click here, it will take you to our Be Informed. You can also get to this by going to agency and clicking on be informed. So here is where you will see all of the recent announcements that we have sent out through our Gov delivery. So here you'll find the newsletter and all of its information. You'll also see the date that it was published as well. So from there, you'll see, all right, let's say we wanted to see an update on Aurora. So this will have all of the information that was sent out through Gov delivery, and then a link to the full Gov delivery as well. So this is a really great spot to find out about construction happening at our state-owned airports. When we send out Gov delivery information, this is where it will be. Once a certain amount of time has passed, I will archive it and it will all go in here. So you can go into the search bar and you can type in, let's see, maybe prospect. Do I have one for prospect in there? And that will pull up all of the Gov deliveries that have been sent out since I believe March of this year, or May of this year, I'm sorry. And it will pull all of the Gov deliveries for that. So this is a great resource if you're looking to find information quickly and all in one place. The other spot that we have information at is also under agency, and it's our news and press releases. Here, you'll find all of the news and all of the press releases that the agency is sending out. I will usually highlight the most recent one at the top, and then there will be an archive of all of the press releases after that. So you can go in and find any information that you may have missed in the past. So we really wanted to make all of this information readily available to you when you need it. Okay. And so that's what I really wanted to highlight on our website. And then looks like I'll have to reset. And as per any comms person, I'm going to shout out all of our social medias. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Each one of those has different kinds of information. Our Instagram is really great for highlighting recent events that are happening in the state around all, that's where we post our fly-in posters, what's happening at state-owned airports. So when our maintenance guys are out there doing something really cool, we'll post about it there. Our LinkedIn also has a home for all of our press releases as well. And then our Facebook is everything. So go ahead, check us out, follow us on our socials, and
Share our stuff.
That's right.
And comment.
Yes, share,
And like.
comment, like, all of the things. And so that is everything that I wanted to talk about. It was nice and brief, hopefully. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
That's great. And I know, sometimes it's hard to navigate websites, but it's still, compared to the old website, this is such a humongous improvement.
Yes.
So yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I got a clap from Steve over there.
Yeah, there we go. All right, thanks, Alexis.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is State Airports Manager update with Tony.
Hey, good morning. And if I may just take a moment to address a couple of the public comments we got in this meeting, I'll start there. And really great questions, great comments, and thank you for making those. On the Independence PAPI, those PAPIs at Independence have been working intermittently since before I even joined the department almost 6 years ago. They're very old. We do not have parts for them. Parts are basically impossible to come by for those PAPIs anymore. So they need to be replaced. And we did find one old control board shoved in some corner of our shop earlier this year, and that brought one of the PAPIs back online earlier this year, trying to get them operational again. And it worked for a little while, but they continue to be intermittent. So they're not reliable. So we just can't count on them. And so we have them noted out of service, and I believe we have them turned off. And we have a plan to replace them next year with a 26 grant with the FAA. So we're working on that. In fact, we just held a pre-design meeting with the FAA here a few months ago. And the question was asked, well, if we're looking at our CIP and we're looking at a runway project, the master plan calls for the PAPIs to be shifted, I think 150 some feet, then do you want to wait until 2031, I think, to replace the PAPIs then? We said, no, we need these PAPIs now. So we are looking forward to getting those PAPIs replaced here next year. On Pacific City, thank you, Robin, for the comments. Appreciate that. It has been a lot of work just working on permitting and with our consultants on everything we need to do to prepare for that project at Pacific City. And just a couple of things. We have spent a portion of a fair chunk of the amount of money that was approved back in 2020 for Pacific City. In fact, in 2020, when at the peak of COVID and when our revenues were declining, we paused SOAR projects. And the only project that was funded in 2020 from SOAR was for Pacific City, and that was for property acquisition. So we did do that part. And in the last year, we have worked through drainage study and analysis of that system. So
Can I just ask you on that? And wasn't part of it also the delay was because we had to do the environmental process?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
Yeah. It does take some time. One comment about she was right that the project is in cycle 3. That was the projects approved in 2020. We just finished this year Prospect the runway project, which was a cycle 2 project. And next year we're working through the Malino waterline improvement project, which was also a cycle 2 project. And that's again not being finished until next year as well. So
I just wanted to point out because I mean, a lot of people just don't realize that that's why you might see some hopscotching of projects around, because we have to take things in a certain order and you have to get the planning and environmental done before you can even do the construction part. So, yeah.
Yes, unfortunately.
With me, it's frustrating to all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. It does. Things unfortunately do take longer than one would expect. So I also just want to mention quickly that in 22 and in 2024 in our board meetings where I've done SOAR updates, we have mentioned the need to prioritize the use of our limited SOAR funds. We don't have enough funding to complete all of the projects that we have. In fact, right now, well, last time I checked, we had $750,000 worth of SOAR projects that we did not have funding for. And up until this technically next year, when we complete the Oak Ridge project, we had 4 runways that were near or at failing. And so we have worked through over $9 million worth of those runway projects. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in my presentation here in a minute. But we still have one more, which is Oak Ridge. And then our next step, I'm going to honor my commitment that I've said in past board meetings. No new SOAR requests that are not urgent until we catch up on the backlog of projects. So I look forward to honoring that. And in fact, have emailed Robin earlier this week about next steps. So, all right, I will, unless there's any questions on that, I'll launch into my presentation. Okay. Good.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, that's the full screen, I think.
Yeah, it looks
Okay, good. All right. I am going to run over time. I have a lot of great stuff I'm very happy to share, and I didn't share information in the October meeting, so bear with me for a little while. This is a drone photo taken at the Salem Space State Airport by our operations specialist, Don Richcreek, and this was at the completion of our Salem Space project just a few months ago, and I'm going to share just a little more about that soon. But first, I really want to give a warm welcome to Christian Berge, our new airport program specialist, sitting right over here. We're very happy to have Christian on board. So he started just October this year, and he is bringing a wealth of knowledge, experience, and skills. And he has served in the U.S. Army in aviation operations. He has had a career in law enforcement, working with the airlines, and most recently at Veteran Affairs. And we're really happy to have him because he's an overall good dude. So, Christian, as a program specialist, will be working primarily on, at least initially, on airport safety training. And that is specific to the Aurora State Airport, but also all of our state airports. And he'll be working on a lot of rulemaking that includes through the fence rulemaking that we talked about earlier this year, and on the VPD, the violations and civil penalties for VPDs that we have been talking about for some time, and I'm going to mention again soon. He's also going to be instrumental in establishing the volunteer coordination project or program that we have been talking about, and kind of filling a void and a lot of the noise outreach that we've been working on. So those and other projects that Christian's going to be working on are going to be just, again, instrumental in improving how our communities and how the airport users interact and engage with state airports. So I'm really excited about that. And again, can't be happier to have Christian on board. So thank you and welcome. I also want to give a big shout out to all of our airport staff, including the airport operations, our operations specialist, Don Rich Creek. I'm going to steal Kristen's thunder just a little bit here, but I have to highlight that we, for the first time that I know of, got 100% on our airport inspection KPM, 100% for the year. So that's quarterly inspections for all state airports. Previously, we had not been able to inspect the Owyhee State Airport, but we worked out an arrangement with Malheur County Sheriff's Office to transport us by boat out to that airport. And for the first time, again, 100%. And it's huge. So Don did an amazing job. It takes a ton of work and coordination planning just to be able to travel that much all over the state of Oregon every single quarter. So it's a huge shout out to Don. In addition to that, we also do master record updates, so 5010 inspections at all 96 public use airports every 3 years. So we do about a third of those airports every single year. And we also have in the vicinity of 400 private airports in the state of Oregon, and we do those site inspections and produce reports for the local jurisdictions whenever a new request comes in for a private airstrip. So huge amount of work. And because our staff travel all over the state, we put a ton of miles on our trucks. And so we just got a new truck, and this one's a hybrid. So we expect it'll save us a ton of money on fuel consumption and emissions. It gets about double the efficiency of the outgoing truck. In fact, so far in the month or so that this truck's been in service, it's driven about 25% of its miles all electric, which is going to be a huge savings for us. Really excited about that. Just want to highlight on the maintenance side, all of the work that our staff have been doing. I've talked a lot about markings in prior meetings, but just as a quick recap, this is what we've done over the last about 3 years. The orange and 22 there, those were 2 airports we did before we got our new striping equipment. And then the list that follows is what we were able to do with our new equipment. We've done all but basically 4 airports in just 2 years, all new markings. And where previously, whatever a project would touch got new markings, but we had no capability of refreshing the rest of the markings outside of those projects. So many of our airports were in really poor shape and had definitely no reflectivity in the markings, but in many cases, the markings were basically obliterated and just completely faded anyway. So looking at this map, all but 4 airports, and for next year, we have the Condon Airport, which was most recently done in a project in 2020. So it's not as bad as it looks, but and then the other 3 there are gravel and dirt strips. But we will give them a little bit of love too. So huge amount of work to get that many airports done over the last 2 years.
And how many people did that?
2, but 3. So 2 maintenance specialists with the assistance of Don and us. So just incredible. And speaking of maintenance, we've also been catching up on deferred maintenance, like Alexis mentioned. So just preserving what we have. You know, we've had a lot of facilities and infrastructure that has not been getting the amount of attention and preventative maintenance that they should get. And so this is the electrical building at the Cottage Grove State Airport, the left two photos, before and after, and then just other things from our windsock poles, our nav aids, PAPIs, VASIs, all these things that we're just trying to keep fresh, high visibility, keep a safe environment, and again, preserve everything that we have. Staff have been doing a great job catching up on a lot of deferred maintenance. And now we're back into obstruction removal season. So this is the equipment that we took delivery of earlier this year. We put it into first use in March before nesting season started in April. And now it's going into its first full season, and it's already gotten a ton of work done at Cascade Locks these last few weeks. And it will be put into use at Malino, Lebanon, Oak Ridge, Prospect, Bannon, Sleds Bay, and more until nesting season begins next year. So, and it also can be used for brush areas that birds don't nest in throughout the rest of the year. So we're looking to chip away at the invasive gorse at Bandon throughout basically the whole next year. All right. On the leasing side, so Kevin Olson, our leasing specialist, joined us in the summer of 22 and has made tremendous improvements in our leasing overall. I've mentioned this before, but we had over 10 plus years of CPI escalations that were not applied to any of our lease agreements. So Kevin has caught up on those and is updating each of those for around 300 lease agreements that we have every single month. And we had, at the time when he joined, we had about 30 leases in holdover. So leases that had expired that beyond their term and were just in holdover month to month. And Kevin has worked through all but basically two of those. And I want to talk about those two here for a second. One of them for approximately 13 years, when the original lease term expired, this lease at Independence State Airport has been in holdover month to month for 13 years. And we worked so hard, really tried to get this person into a new agreement to renew them into another lease term. And they just refused. And so after 13 years, and with Kevin and I working specifically with that lessee for the better part of 3 years, we ultimately had to end that arrangement. So I don't know the last time, if ever, that ODOT has kind of exercised termination or that level of action on our lease agreements, but not something we take lightly. It's not something we wanted. That wasn't the outcome we wanted, but we had to process the remaining of these expired leases. Another one that we also just terminated was for default, where lessee was in default and failed to remedy the default. And again, that was an instance where we had worked with that lessee for over a year, and the situation, this was at the Lebanon State Airport, was getting pretty dire. Very unsafe conditions, and some illegal activities have been taking place for a while. So I just wanted to kind of bring those up and just share that, we really are trying to work with our lessees and for the best outcome wherever possible. And if anyone has any questions, or anything, I'm happy to share more.
But could you expand a little bit? How do you catch up on 10 years of CPI? What's that process that you use? Go back to the beginning and they have to catch up.
So the CPI, we have the records of all the prior year CPIs, and this was done over a year or two ago, catching up the CPI. And the lease agreements are very specific in how CPI is applied. It just wasn't done. So congratulations, everyone got 10 years of unescalated rent. We're not going back and pursuing the amount we should have collected. We're not asking for the difference, but we did need to catch the rate up to where it should have been. And so that's what we did.
Yeah, Johnny, I'll just thank you for that work. I think there are a lot of airports actually that are in a similar boat, and I've been working on this at my airport for quite some time. And yeah, so you don't get all of the revenue that you would have had, but at least you're doing the reset now where you can move forward. And then same with the holdovers. You've got to take care of them. And I know that's a tough thing to do when you can't, gain a mutual cooperation, but you have to do it. So thank you for that work.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So we had a ton of projects this year. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say congratulations on doing that. That is a big effort to do, both for you, the leasing team, the maintenance teams. Those are big efforts. Probably one of the best updates I've heard on state airports in a while. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm not looking at the attend or the panel, so do stop me if there's any hands raised or anything. All right, so this was a very heavy year for projects, and I mentioned in our November meeting last month just that we were originally planning to bring this the Aurora master plan to the board this month, and I mentioned that we did have to postpone that just so that we could, dot our i's, cross our t's, make sure that we are following our state agency coordination program as closely as possible and working with our local jurisdictions. So no date set yet on when we're going to be bringing that to the board, but we will send out information as soon as that's available. Other projects we've completed this year, huge projects, a brand new runway and electrical system at the Cape Blanco State Airport, a brand new runway and apron and electrical system at the Prospect State Airport, a new runway at the Aurora State Airport, and then a partially new and fully refreshed runway at the Salem Space State Airport, and all new electrical improvements as well. A brand new apron, and then a fully treated or pavement maintenance project at the Cottage Grove State Airport, and then surface seal pavement maintenance projects at the Bandon, Independence, and McDermott State Airports as well. So a ton of projects. Just a little bit of a slideshow here. The top left, that's the Aurora State Airport. And bottom left is Cape Blanco. And then on the right, we have Cottage Grove. Just, again, brand new infrastructure, huge projects that's taking place this year. On left is Prospect. So that is a fully brand new runway, and the apron was just repaved here about a month ago. And I might have mentioned this before, but those are concrete pads in the turnarounds and in the taxiway connectors to the apron, because this airport is often used for firefighting, and where they have to park either very heavy helicopters or heavy trucks and service equipment. So we put these pads in so that this equipment won't eat into the softer asphalt. So huge and great result there with this project, especially with all the new lighting. And then again,
Is that a displaced threshold because of trees?
Yeah. Yep. So obstructions and Prospect's a huge one for obstruction removal for us. We're going to be focusing a lot there. Yeah. And also, so not just trees, our property line as well, though. We don't own a lot of property. So the safety, otherwise the safety area was in the private property. And then that, I believe, is the same photo from Slets Bay. So that just shows the new runway, and that was when we reopened that airport. Coming up for 26, we have a lot of projects again. So Milano hangar construction waterline improvements. Again, that's that cycle 2. We're using cycle 2 SOAR funds for that project, and but also FAA funds on the hangar construction. So that is going to be a huge improvement for that airport, because without that waterline improvement, there's basically a moratorium from the fire marshal on any new development at the airport. So that's going to really be a big improvement. And then also working on the Oak Ridge runway reconstruction. This was a Connect Oregon funded project, and we should be seeing construction or going out to bid there fairly soon, and then seeing construction next summer. We talked a lot about the obstruction removal projects we're working on last month, and at the Aurora, Chiloquin, Joseph, and Milano State Airports. And then we have more surface seal, so pavement maintenance and fresh markings coming to Chiloquin, Condon, Joseph, Lebanon, and Malina. And then we also are looking at starting the Condon master plan. And finally, replacing some equipment, the AWAS at Joseph, which has been also a little unreliable for the last several years. Also getting hard to find parts to replace and keep all the components operational. And then, of course, the PAPIs at Independence next year that I mentioned earlier.
You still have to remark the Aurora runway?
Yes, so that is going to have, the Aurora runway is going to get one more day closure for the final markings. The project's substantially complete, but once it gets the, yeah.
And then the Milano is going to be a huge economic development opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
So for us, it's great. And then we're probably going to see increased traffic there too, right?
Oh, definitely. The airport's at capacity with the few T-hangar buildings that it has. And putting in the new hangars directly with FAA funding is going to provide not just new revenue to us, but meet that demand, and then allow for more hangar development because of the waterline project. So it would definitely be huge for economic development.
Oh, you do not have the timeline yet for the Oak Ridge runway.
Anticipating early next year because Oak Ridge also gets used heavily for firefighting. So we are planning for a spring and early summer completion.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
About 30 days, 90 days?
Oh, definitely less than 90. I think 30, if not, maybe 45. I have to go look at my list, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
For all of these projects, this is just a little snapshot of the gov deliveries we've sent out for prior projects. To get these updates with all the important date, schedule, project scope, and some important operating information, you can follow Alexis instructions, and I just have a couple pictures of those on our homepage, clicking the subscribe to ODOT emails or the be informed instructions Alexis mentioned. Or if you already have one gov delivery, you can click that manage subscriptions and update your preferences at any time.
Yeah. And if anybody says that we're not communicating this information out, nope, we are.
I can't tell you how many gov delivery, Alexis probably could.
I can't.
So many gov delivery updates. All right, so the not so fun part, surface incident mitigation. Since my last update, which was in the August board meeting, we've had 5 vehicle or pedestrian deviations at the Aurora State Airport. Fortunately, none of them were runway incursions, but 5 since our last update, that's a lot. In fact, the FAA has recognized this increasing trend of VPDs at Aurora. It's not the direction we want things to be going. We very much want to see those being reduced. So they sent us a letter identifying the increasing trend, and that Aurora is #1 in our region for VPDs.
And #2 behind Chicago O'Hare
National. Right.
So
it's significant. And the FAA has also asked us or stated that the need for a corrective action plan from ODAV, which we have provided. So also I skipped over a note here that we did go into a lot more detail on VPDs in our September 2024 work session. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot more detail on that, but do refer to that information for VPDs. We have put together the Aurora user and visitor safety training information. This is on our website. I'm encouraging anyone and everyone that has to access the airport to review it because it has a ton of useful information, safety tips and tricks, and helping identify how to stay out of the controlled movement area. And one important distinction is that per Oregon administrative rule, the department authorizes access into the movement area. And if you don't have that authorization from ODAV, then you need to stay outside of that movement area. So it's not just a matter of contacting the tower, either by phone or radio and saying, hey, can I go out there? You cannot do that without our authorization. So we're really trying to harp on just the communication, the outreach, education. Again, that training that we posted on our website, and I mentioned earlier, this is something that Christian's working very closely on as well. We did, in response to the FAA's letter, put our corrective action plan together. And so that includes implementing the movement area training for those that we do authorize. And then, of course, we'll be coming back to complete the rulemaking on violations and civil penalties for VPDs. That's a process we started back in 2022, and we'll be working through that here in a future board meeting soon.
Yeah. And Tony, do you want to call out one particular business that has been very cooperative and has been fantastic in dealing with this?
Definitely. So in our response to the FAA's letter, we identify that some of the unique challenges of the Aurora State Airport, and one of those is that 3,000 feet of our movement line is adjacent to private property with through the fence access, and our property line is only less than 10 feet away from that movement line. So that constraint makes it really difficult for us. But we have been working very closely with the through the fence permittees adjacent to the airport, and they have been implementing a ton of improvements of their own to try to mitigate VPDs, including most recently one of our permittees that has an area that is responsible for a majority of the VPDs. They are committing over $100,000 in improvements in fences and secondary gates to keep their employees and guests away from the airfield. So there is a significant amount of effort going into this, and especially again on the private side. So big shout out to them. That's the South End Corporate Air Park for all their work. And others have done so too. So on the north end, Willamette Aviation over prior years have done secondary gates, and continue to talk about VPDs in our monthly PAM meetings at the Aurora State Airport as well. So, yeah.
How far away are we from completion of the rulemaking on violations?
So that probably a few months. It's going to take a few months for us to get fully into that, because there's some notice requirements, and then we're planning to reconvene the rulemaking committee. So again, Christian joined us here in end of October and is getting up to full speed here, and we'll be bringing it to the board very soon.
And Steve had his hand up. It may have been the same question.
Yes, thanks, Chair. It was the exact same question. Jim beat me to it. Yeah, the sooner the better, given these circumstances. So yes, I think that's a priority.
Definitely agree. Okay. All right. Just a few other things. So where we can, given the constraints, the physical constraints that we have, where we can work on access control and wayfinding improvements, we'll continue to do that. And then, of course, completing the design standard and safety projects identified in the new master plan once that's adopted. So that's what we have going forward. Just a few other seasonal updates. As usual, our 4 seasonal airports closed November 1st through May 1st. So Crescent Lake, McKenzie, Santiam Junction, and Tokatee. And then, as in prior years, just a reminder that we don't report most of our surface conditions. And our default is not reporting conditions. When we do observe conditions, we'll report them. And we also welcome pilot updates, but we may not always or may not update those officially, but that information is still helpful to us. Our ability to plow is extremely limited, and we do not have de-ice capability at any of our airports, including Aurora, to de-ice the pavement. That's a DEQ and just honestly a financial and time and equipment limitation. So everything, unfortunately. Please do check NOTAMs for the latest conditions. The airports that we report conditions the most at are Joseph, which gets on average over 40 inches of snow a year. And then Aurora, really because it's so close and the type of operations of that airport. And then reach out to us with any questions or for any updates as well. Finally, this is a reporting year for based aircraft. So every 2 years, the FAA provides Congress a 5-year estimate for AIP eligible development. And they take that based aircraft snapshot, send it to Congress, and that helps justify or allocate federal funding to state airports. So we have 12 airports that are eligible for federal funding, and we're asking for any tenant or airport user, anyone that meets that based aircraft criteria, to please send us the information here on the slide so that we can make sure that we have the correct information and get the most appropriate level of funding for our airports. Other airports are doing this, and when they have an aircraft and they're duplicate reporting it, then we have to be able to basically argue why that airport actually belongs with us. And if we don't do that, we lose that aircraft. So really important. And I just sent out another reminder gov delivery today. So anyone, and again, just state airports, that if you have an aircraft based there meeting that criteria, please send that information to us. I think that's my last. Any questions?
Tony, do you tie your N numbers to your hangar leases?
No.
Be a suggestion.
Yes.
And it takes a while. We've been working on it for a while.
Yeah. And from my own experience, managing one airport was a little easier to inspect and kind of gather that information. But again, with 12 NIPIS airports across the state, we do not have the ability to go and gather that information directly, fortunately.
Except on a lease renewal, you could.
Yes. So I agree. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Tony? I don't see any. Thank you, Tony, for that report. Appreciate that. I think we should probably take a 10-minute bio break. Zoom. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay.
So we'll come back at 11:30, 15
Sure.
minutes?
Yep.
Okay, 11:30.
Yeah. 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, we are back. And we are now going to have a core cycle 10 update and then action. And Andrea will walk us through that.
Yes, thank you, Chair Stevens and Aviation Board. I'll go ahead and get my presentation up. All right, so first I'll give a quick review on our core cycle 10 applications, and then we'll go over the Aviation Review Committee process, and then request approval of the Aviation Review Committee for our grant cycle from the board. So our application period ended on October 31st, and we ended up with a total of 58 applications and an ask of about oh, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong side. 66 applications with an ask of 5.9 million. And you can see as a comparison there, last year, we received 58 applications. The total ask was a little bit higher at about 6.5 million. And one of the reasons there is a difference in the amounts there is that a lot of the priority one applications, FAA grant match applications, have a lower ask because the FAA grants are matching at 95.5% rather than the 90.10% that they normally are. And then you can see there we received 37 priority one applications, which are the FAA grant match, 2 priority 2, which are resiliency requests, and then 27 priority 3 applications, which are for, excuse me, economic development and other maintenance and projects at non-NIPIAS airports or for projects that don't receive any FAA funding. So now that we've gotten through our application period and we've done our internal review of all the applications, the next step is to go through the Aviation Review Committee process. And so the Aviation Review Committee reviews the applications December and meets in January. And then they prepare a list for the Aviation Board to review and then approve at our February board meeting. So as I mentioned, I wanted to just give a little review on how the Aviation Review Committee is put together and what their process is for reviewing the core grants. So according to Oregon Revised Statute 319.023, 3A, the State Aviation Board shall establish a review committee composed of 1 member from each of the area commissions on transportation chartered by the Oregon Transportation Committee. So the area commissions on transportation are also referred to as the ACTs, and those are 12 regions that ODOT set up, and they are administered, committees that are administered by ODOT and then various people in the regions that are related to transportation. So every year, usually in late summer or early fall, we send out requests to each of the area commissions on transportations to nominate a member from their ACT to serve on our Aviation Review Committee. And then once they submit those, we put them together and submit them to the State Aviation Board for approval, as we're doing in this board meeting. Once the board has approved the ARC members, we start their review process. When the program first started, each review member actually scored every application that came in. But over the years, we've gotten a lot more applications. So rather than maybe having to look through 20 applications, as you saw, we had 66 this year. And that's a lot for 12 people to have to go through in a fairly short amount of time. So what we decided to do is put our ARC members into groups, or we've called them cohorts, typically 2 to 3, and we give them each a packet of the applications to score. So this year, each of them will be looking at either 16 or 17 applications. ARC members do not score any applications from their own ACT region. And then they also do not score and review any applications that either they submitted if they're affiliated with an airport or, just if there is any affiliation with an applicant or an applicant. There is criteria established in the statute 319023 that the Aviation Review Committee uses in order to score the applications. And then once those have been scored, we put together a list showing how they are ranked within the priorities 1, 2, and 3. And then that full list, as well as all of the applications, are provided to the ARC members so they can have a chance to review that. And then they meet all together in one meeting, typically a couple weeks before the board meeting, to go through that list and decide if they would like to re-rank any of the applications. Sometimes there may be applications with the same score, and they may need to look at tie breaking if there isn't enough funding to cover all of the applications. So they go through that whole process together and prepare that list. Are there any questions on that process? All right. So here we have presented our list of ARC members that were submitted from the ACTS this year. So please do let me know if you have any questions on them. And then we do request that the State Aviation Board approve our 2025-26 Aviation Review Committee as presented.
Thank you for that overview, Andrea. And we can have a discussion before we talk about this motion, but I do want to state that we had a public comment that came in for this meeting. It's an ethics complaint that is going to the State Ethics Commission, but it has not been processed yet. And so we cannot consider that as a board.
Cannot consider what?
Cannot consider the unprocessed ethics complaint for the purpose of what we are voting on today. So I will state the motion, and then if there's discussion, I will need somebody to actually make the motion. But we are voting on approving the 2026 ARC members. So I would need a motion and a second, and then we can have discussion as well. So I have a motion to move the approve the 2026 ARC members as stated here.
So moved.
I have a motion, and Steve?
I can second that.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Again, these are people nominated by their region, by their ACTS region. Jeff. Okay.
Jeff?
Yeah, just one question for clarification. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but with some of the comments that have been posted, is it safe to say that there is no way that anybody could be on a review committee that is not directly tied to aviation?
Yes,
I think that's correct.
that's possible.
Is it possible?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
there are
not,
people there that are not
Yeah.
in aviation.
Okay.
I can see one name right after.
the reason is that it's the acts themselves that choose who the representative is.
Right.
Sometimes the representative is not a part of an airport. Usually they are. I mean, probably 90% of the time, there's a direct relationship, but it's not a prerequisite.
I can fill that for sure.
So basically, just to follow up, it is not unreasonable that there is always going to be a potential for a local applicant to be, there's always going to be the possibility of some of the committee members to be purview to requests that come in for the area that they represent. And the way that we keep everything fair is that those committee members will never review applications from their area. Is that correct?
That's correct. So when we split up the ARC members into their cohorts, we specifically make sure that they do not review any applications from their ACT area or any that they may have an affiliation to the airport.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Yeah, I think as far as I recall, every member of the ARC can look at and read all of the applications there. It's public information, but it's correct that they do not score score is really the appropriate terminology. They do not score or participate in the scoring or the discussions of the score of their own grant requests. And I think that's a good process.
Thank you for that. Are there additional comments or questions? Not seeing any, then I will call for a vote then, please, Alexis.
Okay. Phil Groff,
Aye.
Jim Knight,
Aye.
Sarah Lucas. Aye. Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Prang,
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard.
Aye.
And Catherine Stevens.
Aye. And that motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, up next is the presentation from Alex on the board adoption of OAR 738124. And Alex has done quite a lot of work for us, so he's going to get some extra bonus points for this extra homework assignment he had for us on this.
Good morning, everybody. Looks like that's coming through fine. A little bit of a dry presentation, so if you don't have your coffee, you may want to get it. So yeah, a presentation on our updates to our ASAP administrative rules. And first slide of the presentation, a timeline of way back when this started. So we started this way back in April of 2025. And that's when we notified the board that we have started reviewing these rules and have begun and put together the timeline for permanent rules to be completed. Met again in July with some updates on where we were at that point with the rulemaking process, follow-up of our RAC meeting. So we'll get into that a little bit on the next slide, but we had 2 meetings with the Rules Advisory Committee to put together the draft amendments to the rule, and we went over the proposed changes to those OARs. August, provided an OAR update for the board in anticipation of approval of the amendments towards those core grants. We went over the proposed changes. Oops, sorry. This off my screen so I can see the whole slide here. All right. And then in September, we had the notice of proposed rulemaking published in the Secretary of State Bulletin, notified of public comment period, and the public hearing for the OAR. We summarized the language changes that were in those administrative rules, and again, provided just general updates to the board on all of what those changes encompassed. Public comments received, 922, those were added to our website. 10 to October 2nd was our original plan date for the board review and approval. ODOT had decided prior to the October meeting to postpone just to ensure that we had enough time to review all of those public comments and ensure that all of our proposed amendments were in line with ORS and so on. November, we went through a similar process as I'm doing now, reviewed the rulemaking process and summary of the updates to OAR 738-124. We requested adoption at that time, but we did postpone until this December meeting per the board request. Again, just for additional time to review some of the public comments and really make sure we're checking all the appropriate boxes. So today, reviewing our timeline here, our process, we'll go through a summary of the updates, and again, request the adoption of the amendments to the proposed amendments to the rules, sorry. So again, a timeline breakdown there on the left. So ODAB and DOJ have worked quite a bit on all of these proposed amendments to, again, just ensure that they're meeting with all of our ORS requirements. We had our Rules Making Advisory Committee meetings, or the RAC meetings, April 17th and 29th. We provided the draft proposed amendments to the board throughout the summer, spring and summer. Final draft and notice of proposed rulemaking to the Secretary of State in August. And then just after that, it was published in the Secretary of State Bulletin. We had our public comment period and our public hearing. And then lastly, we're at in December, published the permanent rules. So on the right there, you'll see the table of the rules that have proposed amendments. So 738-124-15, those are definitions within the ASAP program and within this set of 124 rules. Group 35, board review and project selection. 40 is the maximum core grant amount. 80 is core program administration, and then 90 is our SOAR program, which is for our state-owned airports. Reason for these updates, there's quite a few, but in summary, just updating the terms. We made a lot of program efficiency improvements, a lot of project administration process improvements, and then to clarify the state aviation board's ability to redistribute grant funding or reprioritize grant applications. Summary of those amendments: to provide clarification on allowable actions by the State Aviation Board in reprioritizing and approving COAR grant applications, added approval criteria based on ORS 319-023 and OAR 738-124-0060. And this was to ensure alignment with how the ARC has been reviewing those applications since the program's inception in 2017. And then added a process for the State Aviation Board to submit justification if applications are reprioritized and funded for a lesser amount than requested by the applicant. And a big one this year, we have set in the proposed amendment, the maximum grant amount to $150,000 due to just continual increase in the project quantity, as Andrea pointed out earlier. We just get more and more applications every year. Costs do not go down. We have not received any additional revenue increase to the program. And as we've seen the past several years, we're, for the most part, only able to get into priority 1 applications and less into priority 2 and 3. And there, just in general, there was confusion. Prior, the rules had allowed up to an ask for $250,000, but there wasn't a lot of clear guidelines on how to justify that. And some applicants wouldn't even realize that was an option some year. And so it just really simplifies and makes the program more efficient. If we just have one set amount, it's a level playing field for everybody each cycle. So specifically to Rule 90, this was the one that had the most public comment received. We have proposed removing the ARC review process from SOAR projects, and that's due for several different reasons. SOAR projects are not ranked and are only applied from the available funds that ODAV has as lined out in ORS. And SOAR has generally had a preference of only using SOAR funds towards non-NIPIAS airports. These are airports that do not have any other funding capabilities. There's no other methods for them to receive funding. So it makes more sense to, in general, unless there's some sort of emergency need to prioritize SOAR funding to those non-NIPIAS airports. Public comment is still allowed through the State Aviation Board process, just like we're doing now. Any project that's received throughout the cycle, anybody is welcome to attend a board meeting and provide their public comment on those projects. And ORS 319.023 grants rulemaking authority of specifically SOAR projects to the Oregon Department of Aviation and not State Aviation Board alone. And so for this presentation, what we would anticipate, or what we plan to do, is the Oregon Department of Aviation jointly with the board would adopt the proposed amendments to OAR 724-138-90 with an effective date of January 1st, 2026. At our last meeting, we had received public comment from AIAA. They sent a fairly extensive email with some of their objections towards our proposed amendments. It's going to be a lot of text here. If anybody has any questions, please just blurt out, but I'll start reading through some of this just so everybody can get the general idea of what their objection is and how we're responding to it. So first objection is specific to Rule 35, Section 6. The draft rule proposes to, and this is the objection, to authorize the Aviation Board to reprioritize using factors whose weight of each factor being within the board's discretion, notwithstanding ARC scoring using statutory criteria. The proposed text applies no weighing method, no decision-making rule, and no limiting standard. The proposed reprioritization provision exceeds a statutory delegation to set priorities by rule, and respectively is invalid under ORS 183-400. Back. Our response, again, after a lot of discussion with DOJ, is the criteria for the board's review is proposed in 738-124, 35, Section 6, DAB. These subsections as proposed direct the board to consider only the criteria set forth in ORS 319023, sections 3B, A through B, and OAR 738, 124, 60, section 5, when reviewing the applications that ARC has prioritized and recommended. The board by statute is authorized to make the final decision regarding a COAR application. And the proposed rule text is intended to ensure that the board's considerations align with the ARC's review and recommendation. And then in italics there on the bottom, we just have two very minor, statutory minor corrections that we would propose when we actually, go to file any type of permanent rules. And those two minor corrections would be in subsection 738, 124, 35, section 6D, to update the reference, correct the reference from DA through D to CA through D. And in addition, in subsection 738, 124, 0035, section 60A, we had a typo, word committee, big O there, just needs to be corrected.
So, Alex, to summarize it, what happened was the argument is based on what was in the old rule, not in the new proposed rule, right? So
yes.
that's pretty much it. And the criteria is actually directly in the new rule. So there is something to go by.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions before proceeding? Okay. Second objection. Sorry, I'm have to keep moving around this stuff on my screen here. To OAR 738, 124, 0040, sections 1B. The draft purports to set a $150,000 maximum for COAR funding, but the immediate authorizes the board to exceed it whenever a larger award would serve the purpose of the program without the articulation of criteria that would drive a variance from the maximum. So to Kenzie's point, their objection seems to be in reference to the rule prior to the actual proposed amendments. So the proposed amendment does already propose to repeal 738, 124, 40, section 1B, which was what previously allowed for asks above 150,000. So proposed amendment would limit the ask to 150,000, and the board could not approve any higher amount. Objection 3, 738, 124, 35 would improperly elevate recommendations made by any other stakeholder and advocate entities to the same level of importance as ARC recommendations and authorize post-scoring reprioritization of ARC funding recommendations to Oregon Aviation Board unfettered discretion. The department has not, our response, the department has not proposed any substantive changes to OAR 738, 124, 35, 3, which would permit the board to, or the department, to solicit and receive any recommendations of all other interested parties. The proposed changes do not increase the weight of any public comment received. The criteria for the board review is proposed in 738, 124, 35, 60, A, B. These subsections as proposed direct the board to consider only the criteria set forth in ORS 31923, sections 3B, A through B, and OAR 738, 124, 60, section 5, when reviewing the applications that the ARC has prioritized and recommended. The board, by statute, is authorized to make the final decision regarding a COAR application. The proposed rule text is intended to ensure that the board's consideration aligns with that of the ARC.
Alex, I just want to make a quick comment on that very section because it's pertinent to this discussion, is that the board's considering the criteria that the board uses is the exact same criteria that the ARC uses in order to score and recommend the grants. I think that's really important. So there isn't some hidden other agenda that the board has. It's exactly what's in statute that we use in order to make judgment. So.
Correct. Thank you. All right, so objection 4, the proposed changes to OAR 738, 124, 35 invites end runs around the ARC process and legislature mandated and undermines the express statutory program that ARC first reviews and recommends, and only then does the board approve using the priorities it has established in rule. Further goes on to say ORS 31923 allows board to set priorities for COAR and SOAR funds distributed by rule does not authorize to sidestep or downgrade the ARC's recommendations, role, or the statutory factors. ODA's response, and a lot of these are unfortunately very similar to the responses that were received above. There does seem to be maybe a misunderstanding on how the amendments that were proposed. For any review by the board must first prioritize the COAR grant application according to the priorities established in subsection 6A, B, and C, A through D, each of which is set by statute. After prioritizing the COAR grant applications in accordance with 6A, B, and C, A through D, the board may prioritize one or more applications based on the criteria set forth in 738-124, 3560 A and B. The criteria for the board's review at the second level is confined to the criteria set forth in 738-124, 3560 A and B, in which incorporates ORS 319-23, sections 3A and B, and OAR 738-124, 00605, section 5. A lot of numbers.
So Alex, quick thing on that. So it's not unfettered discretion either, which was in the above one. So there's set criteria which the board has to go by. So it's not an end run. There's limitations put into place. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And in response to the comment, the board establishes the priorities for SOAR funding. Our role, ODOT has reviewed and considered these under its authority to adopt rules regarding SOAR funding under ORS 319-123. Objection 5, OAR 738-124. Yes.
Maybe just to add some color to that second response. So this statute, the ORS 319-023, so not the rules, but the statute that authorizes all of this rulemaking. It's odd in that, excuse me, that part of it grants rulemaking authority to the board, and then part of it grants rulemaking authority to the department. And so you'll see that later on that there's a proposed motion that you adopt this jointly with the department. So this is unusual and it's somewhat confusing, quite frankly, but it is in there. And that is what that last sentence addresses.
But that clarifies. I get it. Okay. Thank you, Stacy. Objection 5, OAR 738-124. 90, section 2, improperly replaces the legislature's directive to the Oregon Aviation Board that the ARC shall recommend to the board the approval or rejection of each project, with language stating only that ODOT will provide the board in the SOAR project list. Properly eliminates the legislative required review and recommendation step for the SOAR funds distribution. ODOT response, ORS 319-023, sections 3A and B require ARC review and recommendation of all applications for monies distributed under ORS 319-023. ODOT is not an applicant under ORS 319-023 for administrative costs or SOAR projects. ARC's role in the review and recommendation relates only to the grant process that requires an application, i.e. COAR grants and not SOAR grants or other administrative costs. In addition, ORS 319-023 grants rulemaking authority relating to the SOAR process to the Oregon Department of Aviation and not the Oregon Aviation Board. Objection 6, ODOT previously proposed legislation removing ARC recommendation from the SOAR grant review process, which the legislature rejected. I have no idea where this actually came from. House Bill 2153 did not propose to repeal any language in ORS 319-023, which addresses ARC and the priorities it must consider when reviewing an application. Instead, in actuality, House Bill 2153 proposed moving all of subsections 2, 3, and 7 to a new section, which would have the effect of creating a new statute. For reference, see House Bill 2153 from this last legislative session and sections 3 and 5. In any event, House Bill 2153 was not rejected by the legislature. It simply remained in committee when the legislature adjourned without passing any transportation funding bills. I think we all know how that one went. It was a pretty big deal this last go around. Objection 7, ODOT proposal to alter OAR 738-124-90 to route a SOAR project list to the ARC to do essentially nothing with it, and 2 allows the Oregon Aviation Board to increase or decrease dollar amounts for projects on that list for whatever reason the Oregon Aviation Board sees fit. At a minimum, OAR 738, 124, 90, section 1 should be written to refer to projects that serve the purpose to
Steve, did you lose audio? I'm not able to hear anything.
Yeah, I lost him as well.
Okay. They'll probably come back here shortly. I also just sent Alexis a text.
the teams moving. But
We're having some technical difficulties here, but we are resolving those and we'll be up and started in a few moments.
Microsoft Teams broke, so we're fixing it right now. Alexis is just restarting it.
Are we up on this? Okay. There we go. Okay. Are we live? Are we good? And somebody online give us a thumbs up. Yeah, okay, we're good. All right, just so everybody knows, we had a little failure, a team's failure, so we had to take a little break, but no other business was done, and we'll get back to the number reading. Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you. Sorry for putting teams to sleep. We'll just start again with 7. Yeah, not quite sure where.
Over.
Yeah.
Please, highly over.
Thanks. We'll just start with 7. I don't know quite where it cut off, but subjection 7. ODOT's proposal to alter OER 738-124-90 to route a SOAR project list to the ARC to do essentially nothing with it, and allows the Oregon Aviation Board to increase or decrease dollar amounts for projects on that list for whatever reason the Oregon Aviation Board sees fit. At a minimum, OER 738-124-90, Section 1 should be rewritten to refer to projects that serve the purposes described in OER 738-124-10, Section 3, so that the Department of Aviation and the Oregon Aviation Board do not have authority to change the 25% SOAR funding distribution. So ODOT's response, ORS 319023, Sections 3A and B, require ARC review and recommendation of all applications for monies distributed under ORS 319023. ODOT is not an applicant under ORS 319023 for administrative costs or SOAR projects. ARC's role in the review and recommendation relates only to a grant process that requires an application, i.e. COAR grants, and not SOAR grants or other administrative costs. In addition, ORS 319023 grants rulemaking authority relating to the SOAR process to the Oregon Department of Aviation and not the Oregon Aviation Board. Section 8, request changes to text in OER 738-124-90, Section 2, to apply the criteria in OER 738-124-60. Might have been a little bit of a typo there. Section B, the ARC shall recommend to the board the approval or rejection of projects on the SOAR project list. Our response, ODOT's response, ORS 319023, Sections 3A and B require ARC review and recommendation of all applications for monies distributed under ORS 319023. ODOT, again, is not an applicant under ORS 319023 for administrative costs or SOAR projects. ARC's role in the review and recommendation relates only to the grant process that requires an application made by a non-state airport. In addition, ORS 319023 grants rulemaking authority relating to the SOAR process to the Oregon Department of Aviation and not the Oregon Aviation Board. We're almost there, I promise. All right. Objection 9, either delete the free-floating weighing clause in OER 738-124-35, Section 6, or replace it with, quote, after prioritizing under Section 6A through C, the board may adjust ranking only upon written findings that identify, 1, the specific factors in ORS 319023, Sections 3B, A through B, and OER 738-124-60, Section 5, supporting the adjustment. 2, the weighing methods used, and 3, why the adjustment better satisfies the rule established priorities. ODOT's response, the criteria for the board's review is proposed in 738-124-35, Section 60AB. These subsections as proposed direct the board to consider only the criteria set forth in ORS 319023, Sections 3B, A, B, and OER 738-124-60, Section 5, when reviewing the applications that ARC has prioritized and recommended. The board by statute is authorized to make the final decision regarding a COAR application, and the proposed rule text is intended to ensure that the board's consideration aligns with that of the ARC's review and recommendation. And I think this is the final objection. 10, replace OAR 738-124-40, Sections 1B with notwithstanding, A, the board may exceed the maximum amount only upon written findings adopted at a public meeting that, 1, specified criteria in this rule are met, and 2, and like applicants will be treated alike. Adding criteria list to the rule. Our response, again, similar to many of the above ones, the proposed amendment already proposes to repeal 738-124-40, Section 1B. COAR grants would be limited to that $150,000 maximum, and the board cannot approve a higher amount. So we're going to that one. That goes through all of the objections that were submitted by AIAA and ODOT's responses. Is there any questions before we move to the next slide? And then that would bring us to the request to adopt of administrative rules. We have a example statement here on the screen for all the board members to review and continue with or provide further questions or comments or concerns.
Do I need to read all that?
Yep.
Yes. Right, I'll make a motion that the board amends the following rules as presented by staff and published in the Secretary of State's Bulletin on September 2nd, 2025. OAR 738-124-0015, OAR 738-124-0035, OAR 738-124-0040, and OAR 738-124-0080. The board also amends jointly with the Department of Aviation OAR 738-124-0090.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Chair Stevens, before there's a second.
Yes.
If we could add something onto that to just
Sure.
say as proposed to be amended by staff, because there were those two.
As presented by staff for these changes.
As proposed
Or
to
as
be amended
proposed-
by staff
Supposed to be amended
with
by
the two
staff.
typos, basically, is what we're addressing there. Okay.
Okay.
The motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. You say.
TV's going down.
The technical difficulties that you guys have, I swear.
You know. Okay, is there any discussion? Yeah.
Just a quick comment. For our newer board members and our audience that is here today is, I was the very first ARC chair from the very first meeting that this group came together. We were tasked with the responsibility of our own decision-making of how do we score. I mean, there's a lot of work that was done by the ARC with tremendous assistance from staff to really make this process fair for all. In all this time since we began this program, I can only think of one time of which the board changed the recommendation or wanted to do something else with just one grant. So hundreds of grants have come before us as a board. And each time that we have scored this, since I've been here, we have accepted the recommendations of the ARC. And I would tell you it's very wise of this board because the wealth of knowledge and experience of the members of the ARC is significant. I think that we as a board would be lost if we didn't have this process the way that it is. So I just want to commend the staff for the hard work that they did in helping the ARC be formed. And I appreciate the hard work of the ARC. And Shelley has done a really remarkable job as the chair over these years. She's one of the most knowledgeable people about the process and an incredible trustworthy person. So this last week of reading through the objections to this process really hit home hard to me. And I want this organization to understand that I appreciate the work that the staff did of the review and understanding for us better that the complaints or the objections that were raised by several different organizations and several different people. I think that your summary of what really is happening was very, very, very helpful. In fact, it uncovered a mystery for me in this process is that I was there when we were first instructed that we have to review the SOAR grants. And we were scratching our heads as why in the world do we have to do that? But we didn't really stop. We just said, okay, we'll do that. So last night, or when we've read through these comments of what staff has provided in response, it's really clarifying what really took place. And I appreciate the assistance that staff and council have provided for us to provide some clarity to this process. The process is good. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for the moment.
Jeff.
Yeah, I too wanted to echo in some of those comments, not in being involved in the core committee because I've never done that. But I do know how much work the staff has put into this. And I significantly appreciate the need for those efforts. I'm also very thankful for those that submitted comments. It does help us as board members when we're evaluating these OARs and ORSs. to make sure we're doing what we need to do, or at least I can only speak for myself. Making sure I'm going back through and reading everything, and without the participation of the community, providing those comments, we can't do as good of a job or a better job than we are. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I'll just add, I think at several board meetings back, we had this discussion about wanting to make sure that we were having a level playing field for, as we considered the last round of funding. And I think that this work really is what we asked staff to accomplish for us so that we could put this, in an official statement and official rulemaking so that we would be able to move forward with our intention and making sure that people are being treated fairly moving forward. So thank you so much for your work on that. We appreciate it. Any other comments? Discussion? And I will ask Alexis to conduct the roll call.
Okay. Bill Gropp.
Aye.
Jim Knight.
Aye.
Sarah Lucas. Aye. Steve Nagy.
Aye.
Brian Prang.
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard.
Aye.
And Catherine Stevens.
Aye. And that motion passes. Thank you. Okay. I think we're still doing good on time.
Yeah, we just have the ones,
The financial report from Kristen. Yes. Okay. Very good.
Okay, got it up there. So I'm going to go over the 2025 Key Performance Measure Report, the annual performance review report. I'm going to go over the new and improved customer service survey, and then also the results of the Aviation Board Best Practice Survey. So the annual performance progress report is made up of our KPMs. So that's our key performance measures. So this is required by statute for us and all state agencies. We submit this report to the Legislative Fiscal Office, the Chief Financial Office, DAS, and then it becomes part of our budget. And when Kenji and I go before the legislature and present our budget, we present these as well. So the first KPM is the percent of runways in fair or better condition. So this is measuring the effectiveness of our pavement maintenance program. So we're looking at all paved public use airports in Oregon here. So you can see over the last 5 years, we were in the range of high 80s to low 90 percentages here. And so how we get this data is based on the PCI. So that's the Pavement Condition Index. And so if the runways have a score of fair or better, then that's the percentage there. So 88% in 2025. The next one is our new and improved KPM. So you remember earlier this year, the board voted to make a change to this one. So just as a refresher, what it was before was the percent of public use airport runways meeting or exceeding approach surface standards. And so we changed it to the percent of state-owned airports approaches meeting or in the process of meeting visual approach surface standards, excluding those with permanent obstructions. So it's a lot of words, but it was a really good improvement, as you can see, because now we're actually measuring what our agency has control over, since it's just our airports and we're excluding, mountains that were bringing us down. So you can see we were just 61% every year, and it was really out of our control. So now that we're changed it, we got it up to 96%. So that's a really good news story for airport operations staff. Tony talked about how we got new equipment. And so we're able to get down a lot of obstructions at airports and got that number up really high. And when I was talking to Don Rich Creek, he was helping me gather the data for this. The only reason it's not 100%, there are certain airports where there's obstructions not on our property. So we're not right now not in the process of getting those down, but hopefully in the future we will be. So that is a good one. Number 3 is number of public use airport inspections conducted. So Tony already talked about this one in detail and he explained that really well. So another good news story of us getting to 100% on this one. Like Tony said, the first time we've ever gotten to 100%. So that's really great. And it just really shows that the work our staff is doing with very limited resources, I'd say. Number 4, percentage of federal funds available that are obligated or spent. So we've maintained 100% on this one. It almost seems like it would be a gimme one, but it actually is showing that we're doing a really good job planning for our projects and making sure that all of our NPE and our BIL funds are planned for, obligated, and spent. If they wouldn't be, they would get back put in the discretionary pot and could be sent to other states. So it's really important for the agency and really for the state of Oregon that we're tracking these really well. So that's a good one. The next one is customer service survey. So I'm going to go in a little more detail about the survey in the future slides. But we have 6 questions that we're required to ask and report on for this KPM. And it's not just us, all state agencies are required to ask these same questions. So we're rated on our accuracy, availability of information, expertise, helpfulness, timeliness, and then our overall customer service. So you can see we're in the range of high 60s, low 70s. And 2025 is the green graph there. So we're striving to get that one a little bit higher. Our target is about 90%. And as I said, I'm going to go into more detail about that survey. So when we're gathering data for the survey, we put together a Survey Monkey. And we had those 6 required questions, but this year we really beefed it up and we added a lot more questions. So we got it up to 22 questions because we thought if we're sending this out for customer feedback, let's get some more feedback from our customers and get some more details from them. So
and to Kristen's point, our previous surveys really, I hate to say it sucked, really, right?
yeah, it was just 6 questions.
You get 6 questions and you really don't get good data out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really beef up a survey, you start getting really, really good feedback. That's actually actionable and people interact with it more. So I am over the moon with the feedback that we received this customer service survey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we sent this out to everyone who signed up for our email list. So it's over 8,000 people, and then Alexis put it front page of the website and sent it out on our socials too. So the open rate, 13%, so a lot lower, obviously, than the newsletter. And then the completed was about 3%. So this is a look at the demographics of who filled it out. So the darker the color, the more people in that region filled it out. So the majority were, you can see in Portland, Salem, Aurora area, and then kind of spread apart throughout the state from there. And then this is a look of who was filling it out. So we gave our customers a lot of options of what best describes them. And you can see that we have a very diverse group of people that filled out this survey. And so I highlighted the top categories. So general aviation pilot, airport tenants, members of the public. So if they didn't associate with another category, drone pilot, and then other. When I deep dived into other, just to make sure we didn't forget anything, I noticed it was a lot of like retired pilots or retired aviation professionals. So maybe they didn't associate with another category because they're retired. So it's interesting.
And for data junkies out there, now you understand the crosstabs you can run with this and start to tie all the information together. So this is where I geek out. This is phenomenal.
This was a really good question. We asked which of the 28 state airports they have visited, and they could choose, as many as they wanted to. And it was really interesting to see that all of our airports did get some love, that people had been visited, those airports that filled out the survey. And then I highlighted the top airports. So Aurora, no surprise, was number 1. There was also a lot of Cottage Grove, Crescent Lake, Joseph, Lebanon, Malino, Nehalem Bay, and Pacific City, and Siletz Bay. Oh, Independence State. I think I said Crescent Lake is Independence, actually. So that was interesting to see that data. So that was the first time we'd asked that question. Then we did have a lot of questions about social media. And then we also gave them a lot of opportunities to provide more feedback from social media too, of ideas for the newsletter or ideas for what social media they use. So a little surprised that only 41% had visited the website and 44% visited our social media. We did ask in more detail of what social media or newsletter they had visited, And number one was the monthly newsletter. So that was really good to see. That does make sense because a lot of these people are on the newsletter email list that filled this out. So number two is Facebook, and then followed by Instagram. And then we asked them what social media they use. So number one was Facebook, then YouTube, then Instagram, and that was followed by LinkedIn. Oh, other. A lot of people put other. I kind of dug into those too. A lot of people put newspaper. I don't know if you saw that. And there was a lot of other things that people, Reddit. Yeah, Reddit. Yep. So TikTok. Yeah, because I didn't have that on the survey. So that was interesting to see. So that's the last slide I have on the customer survey, but a lot of the data was.
Did you fill out the customer service survey?
Yes, absolutely.
Sweet.
Okay, Jeff has a question or comment.
Oh, okay. Jeff.
Yes. Number one, thank you so much for the update on that. Really good report. I'm a visual person, so when you show charts and graphs, I like those kind of things. I don't know if it helps others. But one of the things that sort of captured my attention on the last topic that Alex was walking us through, in addition to this, is there a reason why we aren't using social media to get out there's a survey out, there's a notice of proposed rulemaking. When I look at our Facebook, when I say our Facebook, I'm talking specific to Oregon Department of Aviation, and the other social media accounts. There's nothing really in there. There's a lot of press releases and great information about the things that the department is doing to get out to the community. But would this not also be a great place to share some of that information?
Yes, we actually did put out on social media the survey with a link so people could fill it out. Alexis, were you wanting to say something?
Yeah, it's as like we've kind of developed where best information is going. And as we send it out, I've kind of trying to find where best to place that information. But also now being a lot more integrated into the department as well, I'm a lot more privy to all of the information as well. So it's kind of a work in progress, which for next year is kind of where I want to focus on is really establishing that communication portal there.
Awesome. And just to be clear, this isn't a criticism. One of the things that I think all our goals are is to try and bring as much information to our aviation communities as possible. And these tools are pretty powerful. So keep doing the great job you're doing. Glad that's to hear that's potentially going to be integrated into focuses for next year.
Thanks, Jeff. And I would just say also on the survey, couldn't put it in slides, but there was a lot of open-ended questions that we added in there. So we have a lot of data and suggestions. So we asked about ideas for the website, for the newsletter, concerns at airports, if they wanted to volunteer, education, workforce development, economic development. So suggestions from them, suggestions for airport operations, drones, and then just general comments. So we got a lot of feedback. And we're all going through all of that. Alexis got it, all the managers got it, and Kenji got it. So, so it was a very valuable survey. So I think we'll do that every year. Is kind of keep refining it.
And there's some great suggestions in there in the comments as well. So we're taking them. We're going to run with them. And it's funny. Some of the comments are like, "Oh, we know exactly who wrote this," but no, it was all great feedback. So it's phenomenal to be able to get that direct feedback. And the more people that do the survey and provide this, the better. So I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the KPMs. So number 6 is % of aircraft registered. So this is just really looking at our collection process. So aircraft registration is very important for the agency. It's about $400,000 a year. We use it for grant match, and we also use it for airport maintenance. So we make that money go a really long way. Really great record here, 92%. So we exceeded our goal of 90%. I would say it's a testament to our aircraft registration specialist, Jerry, works really hard to collect that registration for us. So she does a great job. And she even, she checks what we have versus what the FAA has, and make sure, if somebody has registered with them and not with us, then she'll be contacting them to make sure that we get all the revenue we can. So that's really good. And Jeff, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Just curious to know, when we're looking at these numbers, when we talk about aircraft, is it specific to manned aircraft, or does this also include uncrewed aircraft?
Oh, great question. Yes, this does also include uncrewed aircraft. So we have about 4,000 aircraft total in our database, and about 600 of those are UAS.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next one is the board's KPM. So the percent of best practices met by the board. So this year we got 95%. So this was based on the survey that the board filled out. And I will show you the questions. Oh, first where we got the questions. So all state boards in Oregon fill out these same exact questions. So we don't make them up. They're provided by DAS and LFO. So it's based on the best management practices for boards. And these are the 15 questions that we asked. We did get 100% on most of them. I highlighted those that we do need improvement on. So the board is appropriately involved in review of agency's key communications. The agency policy option packages are aligned with their mission and goals. The board reviews all proposed budgets, and the board reviews its management practices to ensure best practices are utilized. So overall, we got a 95%. And that is our last KPM. Did anyone have any questions on any of this?
Okay.
Okay.
Great report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really good information. Okay. Well, we are coming to the end of this board meeting, but this is the time for board updates. So if anybody has any updates that you'd like to share, feel free. No updates today. Okay. Any other business that board member would like to bring up?
Can I say something, Catherine?
Yes, you can.
Steve, do you want me to save your cookie?
No, I appreciate that. I wish I was there with you all.
Well, feel better. Feel better.
Thank you.
Chair Stephen?
Yes.
Last year, I think it was in December, we partnered with our consultants here, Century West, and went through pretty extensive list of all of our ongoing projects and our planned projects. We didn't do it this year just partly because of, the ARC and OER and all the other things that we've been working on. Is that something that the board would like to see again, say, I guess it'd be February at this point?
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be really a great checkpoint for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I do have one more thing. Staff took it to heart, some of the heartburn that happened over the last couple meetings in terms of getting the information to the board last minute and stuff. So we're going to propose to the chair some changes to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So bifurcate the information provision from the voting. So there's a period of time that the board can review all documentation and people can provide good feedback and public comment. So it's just a little bit easier on everybody. So it's not last minute. So we're always looking to improve on processes, and that's one of them. So we'll make that suggestion and hopefully you'll adopt it. So
Yes, I think that's going to be a great change, just mainly for process, so people have time to absorb and understand issues.
Mhm.
Great.
Perfect.
Jim?
Just to comment on that, Kenji, it seems to me that that specific problem is kind of the result of getting last minute comments.
That's true.
So that, I don't know how you can avoid that. So unless we said we'll only accept comments, up to a week before
Yeah.
the board meeting or something like that.
And that's one of the things that we're going to suggest is we do have a deadline. So everybody's comments can be given due diligence. And then Alexis.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think changing the structure of how we do public comment and the board meetings will alleviate a lot of pain points, not only for the board members, but also for the general public, allowing the public far more time to comment up to, 3 weeks before a board meeting or things like that. So ultimately changing that structure will allow us to get the public comments to address them if need be, but also for the board to be able to review any content beforehand so that, yes, we don't come across something being submitted very last minute and having to kind of juggle the balls, if you will.
I wonder if there's a statute that prohibits limiting the time that people can submit a comment for the board's review, right? It's not, so it's up to us to make our own choices.
The way that the statutes work with public meetings, it's more about what you should do as opposed to what you shouldn't do. And so one of them is providing a public meeting with an opportunity for people to participate. And I'm not sure there's a requirement to even allow people to submit written comment. I'd have to look at it, but there's not a statute that says thou shall submit it within 3 weeks, for example, or thou shall accept it up to 1 hour before the meeting. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it doesn't preclude people from coming to a meeting and also or speaking online.
Yeah.
Holding the meetings.
So like in our city, when I was mayor, well, we do it still today, is when we open public comment, we say we'll respond, staffers, because we'll respond in the future.
Mhm.
We're not responding to public comment today, but we take it. But we did have, like if you have questions from city council to staff, that had a 24-hour minimum or 48-hour minimum, or it wouldn't make the agenda for the board for that meeting because you had to allow 48 hours for staff to generate the information. But that was only for city council coming in, but public comment can come in anytime. And we just always read the statement that said we will not respond to public comment until the future.
I would never want to do anything that would prohibit public comment. It's because of the public comments that we got on the issues that we dealt with today that forced us to look deeper into the background of how did we get to this point. So I never want to prohibit that, but you got to find a balance between asking us to stay up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning the night before.
Yeah.
You're coming in prepared for. That happens sometimes.
I do want to add, if it's okay, with rule adoption specifically, there are limitations on when you could submit written comment. And so that's a little bit different. So once I don't know if you've walked through the process on how to file a rule, but once an agency does what's called publish a rule, so they do that through the Secretary of State website. So they put the notice up and the notice will say, the notice must say what the last day is to accept written comments, but they cannot, but that has to be at least 14 days. So you have to have a 14-day period. And that can be extended. Things can happen, people can object, and it can extend it out. But the thing is that to deal with exactly what you guys are talking about, you get a deadline set. And if written comments are submitted after that, then you don't have an obligation to consider them. But you must for all other comments.
You must what?
For all other comments that are received on time, whatever agency, whether it's the board or the department that's actually going to adopt the rules, you do have to consider the comments that come in. So you do want to do something like, here's your deadline, but let's make sure that we don't have a hearing on this until a certain amount, at least a month out, to allow you enough time to consider. So that's the rulemaking situation is different. There are actual timelines that are set. So you can always give more time, but what the statutes require is a minimum amount of time at least to go. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Sometimes it just depends on what you're doing as a board and what's on the agenda and what timelines are going to get covered. I think mostly what we're talking about are public meeting requirements.
So,
a compliment again the website design that the submit public comment button is associated with the agenda stuff. So even as a board member, it's easy for me to go to the website, review things, and I hope that for the public that generates a lot of it removes friction from adding those comments. And based on this conversation, appropriate disclaimers of timeliness, and especially if there's bigger items, you could use that space to kind of tailor it, maybe even if there's a bigger item. And I just appreciate that is a streamlined process.
And it actually goes somewhere now.
Okay.
I do have one announcement. I just wanted to remind all the board members who haven't done it yet that your annual training is due by December 31st on Workday. So if you have any issues with your Workday account and you cannot log in, please send me an email and I will do my best to log you back in. But please, those are due December 31st. Plenty. And then it looks like Steve has his hand up. Steve.
Thanks, Chair. I just realized I probably should update something, and something you were aware of as well. And maybe most people in aviation were. A few weeks ago, the Olympic pipeline, which supplies fuel to Oregon, specifically all types of fuel, but very specifically for our interest, aviation, had a disruption for the better part of about 10 days where it was shut down. And those go from the refineries north of Seattle, through Seattle, all the way and terminates here in the Portland area. If you had not been following, Seattle SeaTac Airport was highly impacted and was actually restricting the amount of fuel that aircraft could take on. And many of them were making interim stops either at Portland or at Vancouver, BC, prior to their trans-Pacific flights, just because they did not have it. And the reason Portland and the rest of Oregon, and actually Eugene, Medford, every other airport in Oregon receives their fuel, whether it's avgas or whether it's Jet A, through that Portland terminal, and then it is trucked to each installation from there. The reason Oregon was able to actually stay in operation is because that fuel can also, or that facility in Portland is also located near the Willamette River and can offload via barge. And so while that pipeline was down, they were barging fuel. So we have the luxury of having, or the redundancy of having, two ways to receive fuel in Oregon. And so it's just might be something that the board may be interested in as Portland discusses its infrastructure and hubs for distribution of fuel, which is an issue that's coming up. We are very fortunate in our region to be able to have two redundant ways of receiving that. And it was a great example when you don't, you start running out very quickly. Seattle started to need, the SeaTac airport needed to start restricting that type of operation with airlines within about 3 days. And that lasted then again for the better part of about a week or 10 more days for them to repair that pipeline. And so that kind of infrastructure is critical for Oregon as well. And so as energy policy comes up in Oregon, I think that's, especially around aviation, is probably a good thing for the board to monitor and maybe even at some point weigh in on.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Steve. Yeah, that was a stressful moment to learn about the leak in the pipeline. And I was really grateful that we had, that redundancy in place to be able to get fuel to the other airports across the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Any other business or any agenda item input? I know, Alex, your suggestion is a great one for February. I think that would be a nice update to have. Anyone else have agenda update at this or input at this point? Okay, well, our next meeting is February 5th. It'll be back here in Salem because we've just learned to not battle the weather. And if there is bad weather, we can all just hop online. And other than that, I think we will adjourn that.
January meeting.
No January meeting, right?
Just making sure.
Yep. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.